many revolutions in its history, political, social, and military. But the one happening right now, the battle to control the continent's gold, is the final frontier. This is the endgame. Here's Burkina Faso's new gold refinery, bold enough to break the West's old narrative of imperialism. This is the story of Burkina Faso's gold refinery. But before I pull back the curtain on the specific details of this facility and reveal the massive reason why this single project terrifies the establishment in the West, let me first give you a general overview of what is actually at stake here. Imagine living in a country where 80% of everything you export is sold at a huge discount simply because you don't have the machinery to polish it first. That sounds like a bad business deal, right? But this was the reality for Burkina Faso for decades. To give you the real numbers, in 2023, Burkina Faso exported gold worth roughly $7.18 billion. That is a massive amount of money. However, market analysts estimate that if this gold had been refined domestically before leaving the border, that revenue could have easily exceeded $10 billion. That is billions of dollars left on the table, year after year. This economic bleeding is exactly what pushed Captain Ibrahim Traoré to do something in late 2023 that had never been done in the history of his nation. His vision was clear.
Previously, we exported mining waste for processing, and we had no control over what was happening. So this is a truly positive development in the context of sovereignty, and therefore in taking control of our resources.
That declaration marked the moment the foundation stone was laid for Burkina Faso's first state-owned gold refinery. But here is where the story gets bigger than just one country. Shortly after that announcement, we saw a wave of change, a domino effect, where almost every African nation began scrambling to build capacity to refine their own gold before export. From the mining giant of South Africa down to smaller nations like Rwanda, everyone is now racing to secure their own bullion supply chains. As you might expect, this shift didn't sit well with the traditional powers in the West. The reaction was almost immediate, a mix of skepticism and panic that sounded something like this.
In Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
Please understand, this is not just the story of Ibrahim Traoré. This is a story about how African nations are finally banding together to end the disrespect of the colonial economic model. It is a collective move where Africa aims to control 100% of the gold they dig out of their own soil. Here is how this entire master plan is laid out. To understand the scale of this, you have to look at the global supply. Historically, about 25% of all the gold that reaches the global market comes from the African continent, with a massive concentration in West Africa. In 2023 alone, Africa generated 1,010 tons of gold. This abundance makes gold the primary export for many of these nations and the backbone of their national budgets. For instance, in Mali, gold accounts for almost 80% of their total exports. In a historical context, this isn't surprising. The man widely considered the richest person to have ever lived, Mansa Musa, was from this exact region of Mali, and his wealth was built entirely on gold. But that is a history lesson for another day. Having gold is great, exporting gold is fine. The crisis arises when you compare the price you are selling it for versus the price others are getting for the same product. When you realize your product is trading 20 to 30% lower than the market rate because it is unrefined, you realize you are being cheated. This is the status quo in many African countries that export raw bullion. But the loss goes deeper than just the discount. Countries exporting raw gold are essentially hemorrhaging value at 2 or 3 times the rate of the initial price gap because they lose out on the entire downstream economy. Let's look at a concrete example of this disparity. In 2024, Ghana produced a staggering 140 tons of gold and earned approximately $5.9 billion. Meanwhile, South Africa produced significantly less, only 97 tons, yet they earned $8.1 billion in export revenue. That is a massive difference. Ghana exports far more gold by volume, but gets paid significantly less money. This is the exact same trap that Mali and Burkina Faso are trying to escape. This revenue gap is driven by three critical factors. The first is simply the export of raw versus refined metal. The second is the massive smuggling and trade gap factor, which is fueled largely by the artisanal and small-scale mining (ASM) sector, where gold walks across borders without being taxed. The third is the complex world of country of origin reporting quirks, where gold is credited to the country that refines it, not the country that mined it. The good news is that all three of these massive economic holes can be plugged by one single solution: building a factory to refine that gold before it ever crosses the border. Captain Ibrahim Traoré understood this faster than most. He didn't just talk about it, he committed to it just 1 year after taking power. When he laid that foundation stone in November 2023, the timeline was aggressive. The hope was to have the refinery operational within the following 11 months. However, if you look at the situation today, the stories you see circulating on social media are often very different from the reality on the ground. Since that initial burst of enthusiasm, there has been a noticeable silence regarding the completion of the project. So, we have to ask the hard questions. Where does the construction of Burkina Faso's gold refinery actually stand? When will it be fully operational? If there have been delays, what caused them, and how can they be fixed? And perhaps most importantly, when will Traoré finally be able to cut off the influence of the French and other external powers that have historically siphoned off Africa's wealth? What follows is not just a progress report, it is an analysis of a geopolitical chess game. I invite you to stay with me. But before we go deeper, if you are enjoying this deep dive, please hit that like button. And if you are new here, remember to subscribe to Arisen now so you don't miss out on these kinds of intelligent analytical conversations. Let's zoom in on Burkina Faso. This nation ranks in the top 5 gold producers in Africa. In 2023, they pulled 57 tons of gold out of the earth, but immediately they faced that classic problem: exporting it raw. Their number one buyer has historically been Switzerland, which purchases over 80% of all gold Burkina Faso puts on the market, with the rest going to hubs like Dubai and India. Because they sell it unrefined, the cycle of value loss repeats itself. This is why, upon taking power, Traoré made this refinery a cornerstone of his administration. The refinery is being constructed in the capital city, Ouagadougou. It is set to serve as the new headquarters for the Société Nationale des Substances Précieuses, or the National Society of Precious Substances. This isn't just a factory, it is being built as a fortress. Located in a secured government zone, it is designed to be the central vault for the country's bullion, integrating a jewelry store and administrative offices to centralize control. There are even reports suggesting that the Africa Corps, formerly known as the Wagner Group, will be charged with guarding this revolutionary facility, highlighting just how strategic this asset is. The construction is a partnership between the government of Burkina Faso and a company called Marena Gold. Now, Marena Gold is a Malian company. Regarding the developers, Marena Gold is reported as the strategic partner with a 49% stake, while the state of Burkina Faso holds the majority share, likely around 51%, though international reporting on the exact split varies. What matters most here is the signal it sends. This is the Sahel Alliance in action. Traoré avoided bringing in Chinese, British, or American firms that usually dominate this industry. Instead, he hired a company from Mali. It is a powerful lesson. When Africans work together, there is very little they cannot achieve. Now, you might be wondering about the price tag. How much does it cost to build freedom? The specific capital cost for this new 150-ton per year refinery remains officially undisclosed. However, we can make very educated estimates by looking at industry comparators. The simpler African gold refinery in Uganda had a reported cost of roughly $15 to $20 million. On the other end of the spectrum, the Royal Ghana Gold Refinery, which targets the high-end London Bullion Market Association (LBMA) standards, is estimated to cost in the low hundreds of millions, likely around $100 million. Industry experts estimate that a high-tech refinery with a 150-ton capacity typically requires a capex of between $45 million and $70 million, depending on how sophisticated the security and the assay laboratories are. But let's put that in context. Even if it costs $100 million, that is roughly the price of one modern fighter jet. Yet, the strategic value of this refinery is immense because it controls a flow of gold worth roughly $10 to $12 billion annually. Therefore, a credible cost range for the Burkina Faso project is anywhere from $15 million for a basic facility to over $100 million for a full-scale, secure, international-grade plant. The final figure depends heavily on their technical specifications and regulatory goals. But is a $100 million price tag worth it? Does the math actually work for a country facing terrorism and economic sanctions? The profit model says yes. First, there is the refining fee. Instead of paying Swiss refiners like Metalor or Valcambi a fee of $1.50 to $2 per ounce, Burkina Faso keeps that revenue. Critics might argue that this small fee doesn't justify a $100 million facility, but the real benefits lie elsewhere. The true profit isn't in refining, it is in minting. By converting raw gold into stamped government-backed coins or bars, the state can charge a premium over the spot price to investors in Dubai, India, and China. Beyond that, there are three massive ways Burkina Faso benefits. First is purity verification. When raw doré bars are exported, the mining company declares the purity, say 85%. If the refinery in Switzerland finds it is actually 88%, that difference is often lost to the state in tax revenue or settled privately. By processing at home, the state laboratory assays the gold before it leaves. They know exactly how much gold is in the bar. Preventing even a 1% underreporting of purity on 60 tons of gold could save the state around $40 million annually. That alone pays for the refinery in 2 or 3 years. Second is byproduct retention. Raw gold bars are rarely just gold. They often contain silver, copper, and trace amounts of platinum. When refined abroad, the miner might get a credit, but the state rarely sees tax revenue on these secondary metals. Refining locally allows Burkina Faso to extract and sell these byproducts separately, creating a whole new revenue stream. Third, and perhaps most critical, is controlling the ledger. By forcing all gold to pass through a national refinery, the state creates a choke point. It becomes much harder for mining companies or illegal artisanal smugglers to underreport total production volume because everything must go through one gate. So, it is clear that this refinery is necessary and holds immense value for the people of Burkina Faso. But, since construction began in 2023, where are we today? Aside from various Facebook posts claiming the refinery has started processing, there has been no official confirmation from the government or major media outlets that the facility is 100% complete. It is possible that a small section is operational, perhaps producing some commemorative bars, but the full-scale industrial operation does not seem to be finished. In fact, Africa Intelligence, a reputable source for on-the-ground stories, published a report in October 2024 titled National Gold Refinery Construction at a Standstill. This report implies a halt in progress, potentially due to delays in receiving specialized machinery from China. We must keep in mind that building a high-end, world-class facility requires extensive capital, technical expertise, and time. It is a complex beast, so it is perhaps too early to judge Burkina Faso harshly on the delays. However, regardless of the current construction status, the psychological impact is already done. The hope is there. And more importantly, This move has woken up the neighbors. A perfect example is Mali. Following Burkina Faso's lead, Mali is now positioning itself as a gold heavyweight. Groundbreaking for their own massive refinery project was officially held in June 2025, after being announced in late 2024. Mali's plan is even bigger. Their planned annual processing capacity is a massive 200 metric tons. This is nearly 4 times Mali's current industrial output, reinforcing the idea of a regional strategy. The Malian government will hold a controlling 62% stake, ensuring sovereignty. And in a geopolitical twist, the project is being developed in partnership with Russia's Yadran Group and a Swiss investment firm. This Russian backing is a key political detail, aligning with Mali's shift away from traditional Western allies. This demonstrates a coordinated effort by the Sahel nations to achieve total economic independence and stop relying on former colonial powers. And this brings us to why this is viewed as an act of absolute madness by the French and the Americans. Africa is the source of the world's natural resources. If Traoré's strategy succeeds, and he stops exporting cheap raw minerals to instead sell expensive finished products, other countries will inevitably follow suit. This means global buyers will have to purchase African resources at higher prices, directly enriching African economies rather than Western intermediaries. The French and Americans fear a revolution, a domino effect across the continent, where Africans finally understand the true value of what lies beneath their feet and stop giving it away for free. This is the root cause of the constant pressure and coup attempts targeting leaders like Traoré. Even those who protect him are not ordinary soldiers. They are elite units. And if you want to know more about the 6 specific units involved in Traoré's protection, we have a video dedicated entirely to that topic. If this gold strategy holds, it will force producers like Ghana, one of the top 10 gold producers in the world, to begin processing their gold domestically as well. That would immediately shock the global market. This is why Traoré is a persona non grata in many Western capitals. So, let's open this up for discussion. How much of a chance do you think these projects have of succeeding peacefully? Can Traoré withstand the pressure? Give us your thoughts in the comments below. This is exactly why the French and the West get so agitated when they hear about these ambitious plans. They try to spin the narrative, claiming Traoré is using the country's gold for personal gain, but that doesn't align with the reality of the infrastructure being built. It is clear that the continent has woken up. Africa is seeing through the fog. It is arisen now. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, Arisen Now. If you want to keep watching stories about how Africa is transforming, click the video on your screen right now. It's a great one. I know you'll love it. I'll see you there.